Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, we discuss Pat's results from her first month of the grant experiment. What happened, who she applied to, what the results were, and what's her takeaway. Hope you enjoy it.
It's interesting, and I'm curious what you're doing and where you're coming from on this, because I feel like I'm learning a lot from you.
Well, I've applied for one grant and learned a lot. So I'll just so I too have a spreadsheet. My spreadsheet has 8 tabs.
8.
Timeline, which is kind of, I might just kill that tab. Document directory, it's empty. I was going to do file names where I'm keeping documents, but I ended up creating a folder called Grants for Pat, and everything is in there. Possibles by month, that's the one I use the most. So I have 2024 September, and I applied for one. I have decided not to apply for another one. Actually, for the 2 others that were in September, I decided not to, and I'll just go into that a little bit, but I'm in the middle of writing a longer post, which will lay out why. Research sources, so that's kind of like your 3-page list. Mine is like a 1-pager, but it's links to clearinghouses, mostly for writers, but also for BC Arts Council, Canada Council for the Arts, so government bodies, and they have complicated, request for proposal type situations, but I've applied for them before and been rejected, so I figure why not? I've got a tab that just has my demographics and attributes because I don't think of myself in certain ways, but I actually fit some demographics, born in BC, Canadian, novelist, nonfiction writer, alumna of a couple of things, fellowship recipient, small business owner, female business owner. So I'm expanding my sort of pool to beyond creative grants, but also to small business grants. Records needed. I got a list of stuff I need. I need a good bio. I need to go look up my business number for my business. I can't remember it. How many years I've been in operation, my CV, my writer CV, all my socials, URLs, my website. Some of them require clips, like a video interview kind of. My budget so far, I've spent $160 on one. One is on a subscription to a Substack, Grants for Creators. So that's 140 Canadian, and I spent 20 USD on an application to the Bloedel residency. And then I've got a log, which is it's going to take away the need for a timeline. And my logs has date, what I did, how much time I spent on it. So far on creating grants as an income stream project, I spent 8, 9, 11, 12 hours. Next steps or breadcrumbs, like what I can do next if I have 45 minutes and I want to work on this project, whether I needed references and who I did, when I can expect a decision, what the situation is, like if it's a residency, how long is it for, what I said my availability was, or like if they ask for a community project, what I said I would do for the community project, and then what I sent. So I've only have one what I sent filled in because I only applied to one so far. And then my takeaway. So the one I applied to, Bloedel residency, it's on Bainbridge Island in Washington State. It's 4.5-hour drive. You get a house by yourself for a month, and you have to do one session of connection with the community. And so my framework from Henrik Carlson in context meant that I approached this completely differently. I looked at maps of the area. I considered the projects that I have that I'd like to work on and which ones required me being near the Salish Sea, which is that area that's, sort of another way to talk about Pacific Northwest, Southwest BC. I read the bios and project descriptions of previous winners. I read the bios of the board. I looked up creative, islands have a lot of creatives. I looked up creative organizations on Bainbridge Island and see if there was anything I could partner with for my proposed community project. I fully expected to win. And I spent on that one, I spent 5 hours, because I didn't
Okay.
have a lot of stuff updated. Um, so writing the actual project proposal, really, it came right out of my research. It was very, um, targeted to what I knew about the granting organization and what I knew about what previous people had done and what existed in the area. And,
Mhm.
I think I sent in a good application. I got word on September 19th that I had not made the cut, so that was a no.
Did they say why?
No, they don't ever say why. They say
Yeah.
something like, "We had a ton of people and, keep doing what you're doing." Most of them are pretty encouraging. Um, and I have a little thing on my log. How do I feel? I feel disappointed, but I also feel like I found a way in through that Henrik Carlson framework of unfolding where I-
Which, just real quick for anybody who's listening to this for the first time, we'll include a post, and it's actually a post by Hendrik Carlson that has been very, very helpful that Pat's been using. So
yes, and we'll link to that. And also we talked about it. So we'll link to that previous episode where the grants experiment kind of laid out our approaches. And so it changed how I wrote the app. It changed the quality of my information, my project plan, all that stuff. I can reuse that for future apps. I think it's higher quality. I was excited to submit. Usually I feel this sense of dread, and I haven't submitted very often. I heard back really quickly. For some of these, it can take a long time to hear back, but that one was 2.5 weeks. I was not super surprised that I didn't get it because really it's targeted not so much towards writers as it is to scientists, visual artists, that kind of thing. You're on a big reserve and they would like your output to reflect that. And so I thought I had kind of worked my way around that by proposing my community project could be like doing a workshop and then gathering everybody's stuff in a checkbook and having it published. I would publish it and then having art from local artists in it. So I thought it was bypassing some of the stuff that didn't really fit me.
yeah, and I think that's a good idea. I think in the category of you never know, they may
Mhm.
have, oh, this is a good idea, and this may be something we want to do as part of our marketing. So let's set this aside, and maybe we'll reach back out to this person.
Exactly. I think it was a really solid idea. So although I wasn't super surprised, I did feel that moment of disappointment, but it didn't last very long because I know I'm not applying for one grant this year. It's gonna be probably 15 this year if I can, or, 12 or whatever, and then 2 to 3 a month next year up until the experiment's over. So that's one, and then I had 2 more. One of them, the, deadline's September 30th. I decided not to apply because I realized the September 30th intake deadline was for people who want January, February, or March residencies, and that's just too early for me. I didn't make enough money this year to be able to take time off in January, February, or March next year because I get busy in those months. So I'll hold off on that and do 2 cycles down the road because I think I have a pretty good, I think I'd fit that a little bit more. It's a writing residency. And then there was this one that I decided not to apply for, and that decision came exactly from the same gathering context thing. I'll try to keep it short. It's by an organization up to $10,000 cash to grow your business. I went on the application form and realized I didn't have a solid plan for growing the business that I was going to apply under, which is Lucid Edit. That's really my main business. And I'm like, I didn't never thought about how to grow that specifically. I just kind of, I have ideas about who I wanna work with, but that would have taken a lot of thinking, and but the thing that stopped me was that there's kinda lack of transparency on the grant website. They don't have specifically named winners from 2023, 2022, or 2021. There is a picture of the person who won in 2023, but she's not identified as the winner, and there's nothing on any of the finalist websites about the grant. Like, I
Mhm.
went and looked at about 20 websites, and none of them mentioned the grant, which seemed odd to me.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I was awarded this grant," because that would be in your bio or your about page, because it's a sign from the universe that you're doing good work. The 2023 winner had an Instagram post, but she didn't have anything on her website. And the other thing was the dearth of information about the 2021 to 2023 year, and then I looked up all their board members. 4 of them were previous finalists, which kinda
Ah,
made sense, but these finalists did not have any stuff on their websites about the grant. They never said,
Yeah.
I'm a board member, or, you know, like on a judging, it's the judging
Yeah.
panel basically. And the other four, might have been five, were young men, I would say under 40, all lived in Utah, all were slightly involved in venture capitalism, all had large families. And I was talking to my daughter about it. And
It's a Mormon
well, I wasn't
Mormon
gonna,
group.
we don't want to get sued here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can't.
where,
So, I
underwear
know.
and everything.
It just kind of went that and the transparency issue
Yeah.
and the fact that almost half of the previous finalists even didn't have websites anymore. This website no longer exists. I'm just like, there's something sketchy. And the application fee was $50 US. And I'm just like, I'm not going to throw $50
Yeah.
at something like that. I just don't feel like I'm a good fit for them. I got a little bit of a red flag feeling
Yeah.
from my research. So I just
Yeah.
said, no, I'm not a good
Well,
fit.
yeah, and it may, there's all these sort of ghost ship type things on the internet
Yeah.
that are still out there, and you can still find them, but they're actually not active, and nobody's just bothered to take it down. And so it
Yeah.
could be that. But there's also, so in the world of literature, as we all know, there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of contests.
Mhm.
And that's because contests have become a way for literary magazines and other places to make money.
Yeah.
On the entrance fees. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these grants are more about making money for the people behind the grant as opposed to actually putting grants. I mean, think of it, like a classic pyramid scheme where we're going to give somebody a $1,000 grant and we're going to charge $50 for the entrance fees. So if we don't make $1,000 on entrance fees,
Yeah.
then we don't have $1,000.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, they got it. And they
thing.
do have sponsors. I mean, the grant application is live for 2024. So it's open. You can go pay your $50. You can send them your stuff. They're really interested in what your plans for growth are. But the fact that they're finalists, honestly, I didn't do a grid to say what the metrics are for how many finalists no longer have websites, but it was enough that I went, that's weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
So their plans for growth COVID happened, so that might shut out some of the finalists. And it's not necessarily grants for creatives; it's an entrepreneurial grant. But
Yeah.
the amounts are 1,000, 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000, and those are not really tipping point amounts of money for a small business. The 10 grand I can see, but the other, not that I wouldn't love it, but they're just not. And then the other part is it's linked to this conference in February where they announce the winner next year. So, and you go to the conference and stuff and you collect your giant, like they have a, Publishers Clearinghouse size checks. And I just got the vibe from the various website and board member websites I got the vibe that the conference was actually more important because it hooks small business, like women who are entrepreneurs, up with the venture capitalists, the Utah guys. And I just felt like maybe it's a funnel.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of speculation, no shade to the organization, but I just felt like it wasn't, I didn't trust it enough to do it.
Yeah. And it didn't work for you. So
Yeah, it didn't work for me at all. Yeah. And so I think for me, the takeaway is that it is turning into being like sort of an integrative project in that I'm getting a much better sense of who I am and what my priorities are.
Mhm.
And even seeing that application form saying, what are your growth plans for, the company you're using? And then I was doing a free write this morning on 750words.com because I do an hour every morning I can. And I just had this sort of brainwave for a writer's roadmap, which is I know how to frame it now. I know actually what that website is for. Whereas before it was just kind of a hobby website and I was feeling around and I used it as a tagline on the book Fiction Editing: A Writer's Roadmap. But I just felt like, wow, I got that URL 5 years ago and I just figured out why.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So that's that.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. If you've been thinking about doing a grant experiment, or even just applying for a grant, we hope you'll pop into the comments and let us know how it's going, what your strategy is, or send us an email to giftedunderachievers@substack.com.